one of those back.
The veterans agent. That's it.
Welcome to the April 8th Finance Committee meeting. Tonight we have the Veterans Agent and the Water Department for the 2016 budget. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
And, pretty good. I think it's just over 6 months since we started, since I started here, get the district up and running. I think from the feedback from the town, everybody seems to be pretty happy with the progress. You know, I think that it's really important to have a good image with the population that we serve, and, but not just, through word of mouth, but through action and really helping them out. So we've just hired part-time VSO Tom McCarthy. He's pretty much primarily based in Whitman, and he's part-time, and I know that I bring him up because we have to pay him, and he's part of this meeting, and I really think that if we were to, let me first start out with the district was outlined to me as a full-time director, which is myself, staffed with 2 part-time positions, which one would be the part-time veteran service officer, and another a part-time clerical person. So right now we have the part-time VSO at 19 hours a week, at I think about it's like $20 an hour. And if we were to double that, that would be over 32 hours a week. And I really think that we could do more with just bringing him on up to the 32 hours a week. Because what my plans to do is that I don't want to just meet everybody's need quickly when they walk through the door. If they qualify for assistance to the town, I just don't want to get them on the books. Call that what we do. I really think that we're charged as veteran services officers through the town with really a lot more, that being everything. From Chapter 115 benefits to, we moved a single mother with a 1-year-old and a 7-year-old from Whitman to Connecticut, and we raised over $4,000 through private donations and other veteran services in 48 hours. And if we didn't do it, it just wouldn't get done. And then that same veteran would be coming through the door really in a rut and probably on our books for a while. So, and then the other portion of it is like federal assistance and through federal claims, because access to health, any health through the VA healthcare system is based on a disability percentage rating. And it takes a lot to get that, and it takes a lot to get it accurate to cover the disabilities that you incurred while in service. And I bring this up because I think right now it's about $250,000 in revenue, well, payments, I should say, to veterans in Abington per year that comes from that money. And that's money that's spent in the town primarily, probably for food and living expenses, so it's revenue for the town. And when a person, say a veteran who has gone through a lot of service that they seem to, war, which a lot of veterans, you have a lot of veterans that have done that, and then you have, a certain amount of peacetime veterans, they incur some service-connected disabilities. And you have your new veterans coming back to veterans that have been home for a long time and they've never sought services for whatever reason, and they're seeking them now. And that person may, and I've encountered this, we've had people that have been on the books in either town that we've actually assisted to get on federal benefits, in turn reducing the cost to the town and improving their overall quality of life. Because they're just, they're not really worried about paying the bills. They can pay the bills and they can, really work on other things. The other part of our job is really, networking with other resources that are out there, and doing that not just for the free lunches, but to do it because if we do it right, we'll be able to hook up our veterans to the right people, once again, to improve their overall quality of life, and make them receive benefits that are outside of the town. And what that would do is reduce our cost per veteran served. So I really would like to get Tom on so that we can concentrate on doing that and really not just, kind of get the bare minimum done. I'd like to look at expanding the reach of the town's veteran services in doing that and simultaneously reducing the costs per veteran. And it sounds like it's, well, if we weren't talking about anything else, that would sound, you'd probably say, well, how the heck are you going to do that? It's like, that's what everybody wants to do. Well, these veterans benefits, when done properly, they really help these people monetarily, and if they're on the books at the town, it's going to take them off of the books probably, and if they stay in the town, that's money that's spent in the town. So that's pretty much what we're looking to do. That does take some time, and right now, I know at least before we had Tom come on, and I was covering both of the towns myself, I couldn't get into that as much. But now, since we've had Tom on for about 2.5 months, he's in charge of pretty much getting them hooked up with federal claims. And we're seeing that happen. I think that if we were able to bring him on for the additional, get up to 32 hours, we wouldn't have to worry about being a non-compliant town with the state. And we have a new Secretary of Veteran Services for Massachusetts, and I know him very well, and he's very fair and he's very by the book. And if you read the book for non-compliant towns, if the state wants to basically exercise any type of, I guess, what's the word? Yeah, something say, hey, well, we need to get you back into compliance. They can reduce our reimbursement of Veterans Aid budget, Chapter 115 budget, from 75% to 50%. That's significant. It's a significant cut. Not saying that they're threatening to do that yet. I don't think they are. I think they understand that there's a learning period when combining two towns. I think we're in it still. We're going to, I think we're going to build that here. I really think that it would be possible to do so. But I do know that Francisco Arena is very by the book, and I wouldn't want to see that happen to us. But I want it to be a successful district. I know that from talking to the veterans in the area, they were skeptical about that, knowing that some have worked and some have not. This district's going to work no matter what happens, but I think that if we want it to work the way it needs to work, which is doing everything right, we need to have 2 full-times. You may say, well, what's that? Why do we combine to a district? That's the same as having a VSO in each town. I believe it's enough. I believe if you had a VSO solely alone in each town, it'd be one person, all alone. Nobody to, can't split up the workloads. You can't concentrate on and specialize in certain areas. And you can't cover somebody when they're out, say, sick. It's just on one person. So that's that. So this is the money meeting. I don't want to take up a lot of your time, but looking at the proposal from Rick, I think that level funding for next year would be the right move, and I think that we could bring Tom on by doing that, by taking possibly some monies from like our Veterans and Memorial Day account, because we have a surplus in that account now, and I believe we will at the end of the year, because in the past 4 years, from fiscal year 11 to 14, 3 of the years averaged about anywhere from 2,200 to 2,700 in that budget, and there's been $8,000 allocated to that budget every year. In 13, it was $7,200, and I believe that was after Joe died, and I think that money actually was expended because it was transferred into a salary account for continuing to do and other associated costs like that. So there should be a surplus in this account. I think that we could I'd like to propose that everybody look at the possibility of utilizing this money to bring Tom on for at least the remainder of this year on either full-time, or we hire him as the clerical assistant as well, and use that money to do so. I really think that if we do this, like I said, it would reduce the time spent, really searching and digging for the answers for these veterans, and really be able to fine-tune the responsibilities of the office, and really service the veterans the way that they deserve to be served. Because there's just a right way and a wrong way. And, I think that we've been doing good so far, but I think that we can do more. And I think that we can get the local veterans posts in the area to do more as well. They've expressed an interest to want to help. I know that we talked about putting a Basilian Square and dedicating it to being a Basilian. That's going to cost some money if you want to do it right. And they've expressed that we think we can do that. We can do it successfully. And so they want to get involved, with things that are also going to cost money. And I think that if you could consider that when looking at the budget for next year, and even, possibly for the remainder of this year, I think that would be a great move towards really, just really wrapping this district up and setting us off for between now and say the next 6 to 12 months in executing it in a way that we can show you after that amount of time what we've really done. Show you some reports. These are the amount of veterans we've served, say at the beginning versus after that time. Show you that it has reduced costs to the town, and I would imagine there at some point there may be a point where we, in the beginning, reduce the cost, extend the number of veterans served, and then there may be an uprise on that number because there may be more veterans out there that need service. But once again, if they're eligible for other benefits, which most veterans, aside from veterans that served in peacetime and don't meet certain criteria, that meet the criteria to be on assistance from the town but not receive benefits from the VA, it's not a huge portion. It's people that are unemployed that usually either on hard times they can get out of it, or maybe have some other issues that may keep them in a general demographic of people. But eventually, I think we'll plateau at some point, and I think that time will probably be a couple of years if we can get this, do this right. So I know it's a lot of information, but I know I talked with the 2 town managers. I outlined this in a letter to them, so I'm sure that if there's any additional questions, I'm sure that they'd be able to pass it along, or from myself. I don't know if that's what you're supposed to do at one of these meetings, right?
You've done what you're supposed to do?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what I'd go with, so.
I had a couple questions on the budget, but before that, I don't think anybody's met you. So I wanted to, if you could introduce yourself, and then we'll introduce us.
All right, great. My name's James Crosby, and I'm the Director of Veteran Services for the new Abington Whitman Veterans District. I started, I believe it was September. I left for 2 weeks after I started to do a veterans event in California, but I came back. So that's been a little over 6 months. I live in Winthrop. I grew up there, moved around a lot back, and I am looking for a place in the local area. I do a lot of veterans fundraising in the area. I have been for the past 5 or 6 years. I worked for the state Veteran Services, Massachusetts Veteran Services Department. That's the office that actually authorizes our benefits that we pay out to the town for about 5 years. I was in charge of outreach though, and we were able to start a program, suicide prevention and outreach program. That's what we did there for 5 years. I left there because I was losing traction. It was getting to be an environment that told me I should probably move on. So I did. I went to school, and now I'm here. But that's the short of it.
So we'll start with Liggy and just go around real quick.
Liggy Suzanellis, member of the Finance Committee. Mike Platt.
Rebecca Cantor.
Chad Lovett.
Matt Sala. Pete Walters.
Cindy Whiting.
Very nice to meet everyone. Thanks for having me.
So just on
Thanks for
the,
coming.
getting the part-time person up to full-time,
Right.
does the budget that we see here, does that get duplicated in Whitman? So does the numbers, maybe Rick?
Yeah, what happens is, the number, it's not duplicated in Whitman, but when we look into doing looks like the budget for next year is increasing. It's actually offset and then some by the inflow from Whitman.
Okay.
What we hope eventually, and I know this is James's goal, is to be able to, well, let me take it back a step. One of the things that that James referenced was that a veterans district with a population of the size of Abington can require certain staffing, with different thresholds of
Yep.
staffing depending on the.
And that was the non-compliant.
Yes, however, we have permission from the state to do what we're doing. In reality, though, to have a full-time director who's a certified agent and either a part-time or almost full-time agent using hours, and there's also a clerical component that's required. Well, the reality is both James and the assistant DSO, they don't need clerical support, so they have certified agent hours being paid for instead of clerical support. I mean, they're both proficient with the state system and with the local, both Whitman and Abington financial management systems. So we don't need a clerical element. So James's goal is to get a few more hours instead of clerical hours into the system, so we can actually work with the state on claims as opposed to just push paper. It's just not a necessity based upon what they do.
And with Whitman's portion, there's enough to do that?
Yes,
Okay.
there is. In fact, again, our goal is to have that. Town has been historically, certainly not increase. It'd be nice to have that decrease over time, but as James said, we're really not sure what that will be.
Yeah, it's fairly new.
But to the extent that we can at least get people where they belong and we're better for veterans on federal benefits as opposed to temporary Chapter 115 benefits, that's good for everybody.
Go ahead.
How many veterans are in either town, and how do you reach out to them?
The number of veterans in each town, I think I have the number of veterans probably here, but I can tell you that the number of veterans that are receiving assistance from each town, I believe we have about 10 from Abington and 24 in Whitman. I don't have an accurate number with me right now
Mhm.
for the amount of veterans there are in each town. I do have that number, but it's not going to be completely accurate. What it's going to be is a number of veterans receiving federal benefits in the town. So I'm going to guess here, but that was that $250,000 number that I was referencing before, and if you probably break that up. I don't know, I couldn't break that up real quick.
So I guess my only reason for asking is, I'm a disabled veteran receiving VA benefits. Would you know about me or not?
I would.
Okay.
Every time that there's a change to your benefits, even a cost of living increase,
Mm-hmm.
the Massachusetts Department of Veteran Services gets a copy of the letter that you get from the VA at the state. They in turn forward it to the Veteran Service Officer in the town that you live in.
Okay.
For whatever, they've been doing that for a while. They also, every time that there is a veteran discharge, who indicates that Massachusetts is their home that they're going to after they get out, the state gets a copy of their discharge paper.
Right.
Their DUT-14.
Right.
There's a database that captures that the National Guard maintains, that we have access to if we want to pull those for veterans who enlisted from Massachusetts. But there is no database that you can run reports on to get that number. That was something that I was trying to get done when I worked at the state, but it was just, it wasn't something that was a top priority at the time that they could justify, putting that much money into, because it was very extensive, because you're dealing with discharge papers that have changed over time, so information isn't, down the right, your character discharge, honorable discharge, dishonorable, on current ones down the bottom. Vietnam or somewhere else, it's in the middle. World War II, it's a piece of certificate that's backwards on my or something, carbon copy. So it's a little bit difficult to get that exact number, but it's something that we could get a rough idea of from the state, and just from looking at some of our records here. And that's something that I'd like to be able to do, but the way that we are currently staffed with the hours that we have, that's just really not top priority at this time.
Okay, and you're also talking about the compliance issues.
Right.
Is it just the number of hours?
Right.
Okay.
Right. And I think that, like Rick had said, they know what we're doing here. We're in the first year of a district. They don't expect you to start day one, and be
Okay.
completely compliant, but I think that it would be, a good idea to go into, at least the second year of having the district strong, complete, without any qualms. And Francisco, the new secretary, is actually going around to every single town and meeting with, the town managers or mayors and the VSOs. And he's kind of just waiting for me to schedule it. Because I had asked him a couple questions, asked if he wanted to get together. He's like, oh, well, I'll just go meet everybody in that area at that time. I was like, I'll call you back when we want to have this meeting. So I think that just bringing that up to a level that we could bring Tom on full-time, and that would be the only thing best to...
That's the only, okay. I just want to make sure about that. All right.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I left some of my business cards here if you need to get in touch with me.
Enjoy the rest of your night. Thanks.
And if you know any veterans that need assistance, please don't hesitate to go along the way.
That's what you get for being late. Sure, you're on time.
Send you a text.
I know, I got it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is the water department. Water Works. Water Works. That budget starts on page 99.
Keep getting those methods.
Getting some apple for a recharge out there tonight. We don't have to show it. Yeah.
Thanks.
And I need 2 extras if you have them.
This is why my budget keeps going up, stuff like that.
Oh.
They're just for people that aren't here right now.
Which does it start on?
It starts on 99.
Should be the same stuff. Good evening. First of all, I'd like to thank you for,
Is that everybody? No,
no, I
yeah.
haven't. Me and Callahan, the water superintendent, works.
Libby Susanellis, nice to meet you.
Rebecca Cantor.
Chad Lovett?
Matt Sala.
Pete Walters, good to meet
Cindy
you.
Whiting.
And I want to thank you for accommodating me. Tough thing, but my schedule is good. And if I understood correctly, this is your last.
You are it. You're the
Yeah,
grand
this is the
finale.
last year.
Saving the best for last.
So obviously you've saved a lot of money then, so this is going to be a good night. Basically, for the new people, I go through the same routine every year. Unfortunately, I wear 3 hats, the Abington superintendent, Rockland water superintendent, and the Abington Rockland Joint Water Works. What basically happens is Abington has its own water department on paper. Rockland has their own water department on paper. The Abington Rockland Joint Water Works basically produces all the water and delivers it to the towns. So, and they are funded through a line item in each town. When I put together my budget, what I do is I look at how much water Abington used last year, how much water Rockland used, and that's how I proportion the budget. It's not fair to have Rockland using 60% of the water, but only paying 50% of the bill. Like Abington using 40%, paying 50%. So this year's breakdown is the same as the last 2 years. 47% of the water is billed and used to Abington, 53% is billed to Rockland. So when I put together budgets, the very first thing I have to do is create my joint budget, because that turns into a line item that affects both Abington and Rockland. The top page of what I just handed out is my proposed FY16 budget. There is it's basically level funded excluding three substantial items. The first is wages and salary, and on the second page of what I gave you is the breakdown of all my employees, what they make. This is a 2% increase by contract this year. The only one that is greater than 2% would be Bobby Jo Extra. She's about the fifth person now, sixth. She's getting 3% because her contract calls for an increase plus a step level for the first, that goes through 7 years and the steps go away. So she would be in for a 3% raise this year. Other than that, everything is contractual. The second item that did go up was employee benefits, which is on the third page. Bless you. And the biggest reason that is in there is because of retirement as well as the health insurance, which is paid for all through the joint waterways. And that's a breakdown of where the 859 comes from, turns into a 32% increase. And on the far right of the first page is the actual percentages. The third item that went up is my chemical costs, and that's just totally out of my hand. The more water we produce, the more chemicals we use. We're also looking at a complete change in chemicals over at Myers Ave. I'm sure you're well aware of the haloacidic acids of the trihalomethane we're experiencing over there. And I'll be right here to tell you to your face, don't worry about it. But it is something we are addressing, and we have to use more aluminum sulfate over there, which is going to increase chemical cost. So those are the only three items, and that's the reason they're changing, which does translate into a $188,000 increase, of which $88,000 is Abington share. And that will be reflected when we go to the fourth page, which is the actual Abington budget. As you can see on the Abington budget, I did decrease office supplies by 31 cents. Only because for some reason when it got translated last year, it went in as 15,031.
You sure you're gonna be able to swing that?
I haven't spent the 31 cents yet for what's.
All right.
We'll expect a check.
Yeah. And the $88,000 increase is on the joint line item, the intermunicipal water. And the debt service actually went down by a total of $500, $489. And that's because some of the debts we have out there, they are put out over the principal drops minute, as you can see. So what we basically have is an increase in my Abington budget this year of about $89,000, which is totally due to the joint waterworks producing and delivering the water. That, in a nutshell, is the budgets. I have more to go over with. We can close out budgets first because I have, as you know, a lot of articles we want to go through them tonight. Sure. But I didn't know if you wanted to discuss the budget before we get into the article parts.
Questions? I have a quick question on the Myers Ave. You brought it up.
Yes.
I think everybody in town's aware of it.
Yep.
What's driving the change? So I don't know anything about science. So what's causing the issue
It's a
that requires different
combination
chemicals?
of, when you put chlorine in water, if you have organics, which we have Myers Ave as a well field as opposed to a surface water, the chlorine can react with the organics and create byproducts, haloacidic acids, trihalomethanes. They are basically, they have levels that's acceptable. We've exceeded the level on the haloacidic acids at the Colony Nursing Home, and we've exceeded the level of the trihalomethanes down at 800 Brocken Ave. Up until November of 2014, you used to be able to take all of your byproducts throughout your system, put them together, and come up with an average, and we were well within the average, number one. Number two, they changed the rule that now it is site-specific. If any one site goes over, you're in violation. We weren't in violation before, we're in violation now because we went over. Number three, they came up with a brand new law that says basically have to chlorinate your water. So we always chlorinated our surface water. We now have to, the groundwater rule now says that you have to remove all viruses and do that by increasing your chlorine. We increase the chlorine, more of a chance of reacting with the halocytic acid. If I didn't increase my chlorine, I still would be okay in all of my sites. So basically, until I increased the chlorine last April, which then turned around and reacted and put me in violation in November, before that, we were never in violation. Now, the key to all of this here is, what we're doing is, I have a meeting Friday with the DEP. We are seriously looking at putting in, shall we call it, serpentine water main in the parking lot at Myers Ave underneath we have to dig it all up. And what it'll do is it's serpentines, and it'll give us, he's not throwing stuff at me.
You came close.
Okay. What you do is you create a longer contact time with your chlorine. So we can meet our CT, which is contact time. We can do that after the filters. So now when the water comes in, I can filter out the organics. So the water coming out of the filters can now be chlorinated, and I can get enough contact time to meet my CT. Right now, because it's a small plant, I have to pre-chlorinate, and it's the pre-chlorination reacting with the organics.
Before the filter.
Before the filter. So the bottom line, and the reason I say don't worry about it, is the real bottom line is it's prolonged exposure. Everything is we think. The EPA has regulations that I have to notify everybody with the postcard, that I have to, put all this stuff out to the public and tell them that you could be in danger. I don't have to do Rockland because none of it's showing up in Rockland. It's strictly come from Myers Ave. Matter of fact, like I said, it's Old Colony down to Brockton Ave, even over here. Well, it's not showing up or anything like that. It's just one plume. But the real kicker to the whole thing, in order, the wording is if you have an infant, a compromised immune system, or elderly, you might want to see a doctor for your own peace of mind. So I went to them and said, that I have concerns because Colony Nursing, I've been over there and talked to them. You're the elderly. And their response was, well, you have to be exposed to it for 70 years. 7-0. So I got myself in a little trouble because my response was, well, you show me a 70-year-old infant, and then I'll start worrying about it. So we're going to have it. It's something we're doing to, it's there. We don't want it there no more than anybody else. It's not dangerous. It could be if we carry it out and ignore it for 70 years, maybe even 40 years, I don't know, but it's going to be cleaned up within the next year, or at least alleviated. So that's where we stand on all of that.
Maybe that'll lead to my next question. Is that covered in some of the warrant articles?
Yes, it is.
All right. Is there any more budget questions? Let's jump into those warrant articles.
Okay, my first warrant article I want to go over are the special, and we can pretty much go right in order the way they are. If I did my paperwork. With the special, I had 3 articles, and in reality, I had articles last year that never got moved. They were rescinded from the warrant, or not moved in the warrant. And the biggest reason was prior to town meeting, there was a discrepancy over if I had the money available to move these articles. As it turned out, there was some confusion on my part, and I met with Sue, and we rectified everything. So the money was there. We could have moved the articles. We just had it in the wrong column, so we didn't move it. But in the meanwhile, we have a major meter replacement program, as well as an IT upgrade. The meters are for the town of Abington, but Rockland is doing their own also. The IT upgrade is in conjunction with the town of Rockland, where we are changing vendors for our billing and everything. We're moving from Munis, National, to Munis, upgrading all of our hardware and everything. It's about a $100,000 project, of which 50 is coming from Abington and 50 is coming from Rockland. Rockland voted it all. It's all ready to go. We need Abington money to make it work. So that article is my very first, I guess, yeah, it is my very first article, is to transfer $50,000 from the undesignated fund balance, and that's with a like amount from the town of Rockland to do this IT project. And the reason it's in the special is timing, we gotta get it going.
And what's in the undesignated?
I am spending tonight, I'm requesting tonight, let me look up that number.
Come on, you had to expect that.
I've got it written down here, in some place. All right, here it is. I am requesting to transfer a total of $475,000.
And what's the balance of that?
The balance of that is, no, I'm not transferring I'm transferring 475, and I have about 490. I'm gonna leave 15,000 in the undesignated. But the flip side of that is the way the accounting is done. I've brought money in this year into my,
It's not reflected
it's
on that.
not reflected in this because I cannot use it until it's certified after July 1st. That, right now, in that account, I'm gonna leave 15,000 of certified money. And I also have 77,000 sitting in reserve right now. That I can tell you is gonna even grow more than that. This is actually in the reserve right now. What happens with the water department is, and I'll explain it, get into for a bond issue I'm looking for, but what happens with the water department is every year we operate, we bring in our rates, we spend within our budget, we don't exceed the budget. But if we, one year we did have to increase the rates because of, but for the most part, we bring in more than we spend. That money automatically goes into the undesignated balance fund, and it can only be used by being voted out. That's what these articles are asking. That money's sitting there. It's excess money from the past year. We want to vote it out, and this is what we want to use it for. So the first one is the 50,000 for the special for the IT.
How old is the current system?
Oh, about 10 years old. And the billing software is older than that. I mean, it has been updated, but the biggest reason is I'm sort of stuck in the middle here. I run the Abington and Rockland, as I told you. Rockland has, right now, Rockland runs on a Munis system. Abington runs on KBS, and we run on Data National. So I have to accommodate one of the two systems.
And which one are you accommodating?
We're going into Munis.
Oh.
There's a reason for that. Rockland has on our billing system, they have the Board of Health with the trash, they have the sewer department, and we have the water department. If I come here with KBS, which I did talk about, because John Stone's going to be transferring also to Munis. If I came here with KBS, John, myself, Abington would be on KBS. Rockland's water, Rockland's sewer, Rockland's, Rockland water, Rockland sewer would be on KBS. And then we sitting out there by themselves. This way I accommodate most of Rockland, and the only one that's left by themselves is the town of Abington. And eventually they'll convert to Munis.
So what's the next article?
Actually, KBS is a very good system. I don't know enough about it to say what it's with everybody else. Next article is $50,000. Again, it was an article from FY15 that got pushed aside for the meters. I need more meters to get them in the system. I've been basically, I have a list of meters to get done. The sooner I get them done, the better. So that's an article. The reason it's in the special is because it should have been last year's article. Been sitting on it for 10 months. And the
How many
final,
meters does that actually buy?
we buy meters at about $100 a piece. So that'll buy me about 500 meters exactly. And we have 6,000 meters in town. So it gives you a good idea. I try to run a 10-year program. I'm going to change all every 10 years. Final article is a good article. It's closing out borrowing articles that we never spent. I worked on this with Leo. A couple of them were to buy some land that we never bought. Other ones were algae control, which we were able to take care of ourselves within our operating budget, so we want to rescind those articles, get them off the books. And then getting into the annual town meeting. First article is a very small one, believe it or not. 4,300, I have it at the bottom, but it's Article 12. I can leave it there where it is in your packet, so we don't get messed up. It's $4,230, sick time buyback for William Clara, who's retiring this year. And that would be, again, it's about $9,000 he's getting, but Abington's only paying 47%, Rockland's paying the 52%. Next article is $25,000 with a like amount from the town of Rockland. And that's to develop a computer model system, which we do not have right now. With the computer model system, it will allow us to track and predict water, like Maya's app. We can monitor our water in the system and predict if we're putting these chemicals in here, what it's going to do out in the system.
How's that done now?
Basically, we pay engineers to do it.
Okay.
And then we go out and we test and make sure that the engineers gave us the right info. This will give us an in-house type thing.
Okay.
$30,000 with a like amount from Rockland, and this is the first step in attacking Maya's Ave to change all the media, and the media in there is, well, seen its day. It's, we have 4 filters in there, and I changed the media when I first got here 15 years ago, so it's ready to be done.
What does that mean, the media?
Oh, the filtering,
Sand?
Yeah, it's anthracite and green sand, and the water goes through that, and it works as a filter. It's just what it is. $10,000, this is an annual article for our leak detection program. We try to stay, each town does that. We come out every springtime and we go out and we do leak detection for the entire town and find any leaks we have before they turn into a major problem or before we waste water.
What does the leak detection program actually consist of? Is it overtime? Is it equipment?
No,
Is it
it's actually, it's a contractor. He comes in with the headphones and it's ground mic, and he walks over every inch of our main throughout the entire town, and then he writes a report that I found this on this street, this on this street. It sounds like one in service, you're leaking, 2 gallons a minute. Estimate how many gallons, how much it would cost.
How successful is the program?
Excellent. The DEP request, or your goal is to have less than 10% unaccounted for water, which is leaks, fire, anything. Our unaccounted for water is 8%. On the rest of the U.S. standard. And I put all that into the detection. The next item is $10,000 for our cross connection program. That's an annual article, and that basically is a lot of your buildings have devices. The best way to explain a cross connection is if you had a water main break, negative pressure in your system actually sucks the water you have. If it wasn't set up properly, you could actually take the tidy bowl and the stuff in the back of your toilet and you get a break and you can start seeing blue stuff come out of your water system. It's nothing like that in the homes. It's more for businesses. They use chemicals and all that.
Backflow device.
Backflow devices. And they have to be tested twice a year by regulation. And we hire a company that does that. And and then we charge the businesses. This is just the money is brought in, turned over into the receipts, which in turn turns into surplus, which in turn now every year, rather than building into my budget, every year I just transfer the money that we put it back out to use again this year. So that's a 0-0 type thing. $40,000 with a like amount from Rockland. This is to upgrade the VFDs at Hingham Street and Sandy Bottom. This is upfront. We just did half our VFDs, fortunately. We got a energy grant to the tune of about, I think the project was $90,000. National Grid gave us $10,000. The grant was for $70,000. It cost us was that $15,000 for us to do all of half our VFDs. Now I want to do the other half ourselves.
Does anybody on here know what a VFD is?
A variable frequency drive.
So it's the motors.
Yeah, it's the pumps. And it's an energy efficient. What it does is, as your demand goes down, the pumps ramp down instead of shutting off and turning on, taking that surge of electricity. $30,000 from Myers Avenue. This is to update the lagoons, as we're now going with the alum. Alum is a different chemical that gets pumped out into the lagoons. In the past, we were able to, because you don't have aluminum sulfate, which is considered hazardous material, the alum, the aluminum, that we now have to have, different barriers in there so we can clean it out and ship it out and get rid of it. So we have to upgrade the lagoons to do that. $25,000 with a like amount for the town of Rockland, and that's over at Sandy Bottom. We have a plant, water treatment well house out in the woods that's off-site, but it's been deteriorating, it's been beat up, and we want to clean it up and put some more security in there so we can monitor it from the plant rather than letting the kids go out there and party all the time. $70,000 for 2 pickup trucks. Now, the only reason there's 2 is because this was one of the articles. I was doing one last year, one this year. This is not an emergency to put it in a special, but I still want to get the 2 trucks. Rockland has approved 2 trucks on their side. One last year, one this year. I didn't buy the other one for Rockland yet. I'm trying to just keep piecing the house. I want to buy the 4 of them together so both towns get them. So arguing over why they get a new truck and we don't have a new truck, and it was just a management decision to go for both of them this year instead of. And then the final article.
Are these take-home vehicles, or are they?
No.
Okay.
The final article is I'm requesting a $2 million bond for water main replacement. $2 million will give me approximately 3 miles of water main. We have approximately 48 miles in town here, and I've been picking away at them. As you know, we've done Washington Street, we did Spruce Street, we've done the upper end of Center Ave, we've done Plymouth Street down that end, Adams Street. This here, I'll probably be looking in the area of the Temple Street and Wyman Street, up in that area, to upgrade the old mains. We have an old system. A $2 million bond I would take out for 20 years. Payback will be approximately $100,000 a year. I have religiously over the last few years, with this in mind, we've been turning about a $200,000 surplus that's been turned into the 2 years ago. I had nothing in the account. As you see, I have 490 today. So I will take that account, and I instead of having a $200,000 surplus, I'll be looking at $100,000, and the other $100,000 will pay off the bond. So I'd like to get this bond. I would like to get 3 more miles of water main done, and it will not affect the water rates. That's what I have for articles.
Is that the typical cost that's everywhere?
$125 a foot
Okay.
is the rule of thumb.
Does that get coordinated with like other departments so that when the roads, I imagine it's a pretty big project to rip the roads up?
Yes, it is. We try to work hand in hand. For the most part, the water department, when we did Adams Street, when we did Washington Street, schools, we absorbed all the paving also.
So the whole thing gets repaved?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm working with Jack if he's doing any paving, if we can coordinate with the same streets. and he can pay for the paving instead of me, and I get more water main in. But that 125 includes paving.
Okay.
How long do you expect that project to take?
3 miles of main would be, if we get it approved, then we get it engineered. It probably won't start construction much before the spring of 2016.
16.
And if we started in the spring, we'd get it done all in one fiscal year. It would be, well, not one, it would be done that spring and summer of 2016. Yeah. And that's everything I have in front of me.
Just in terms of scale, how much chlorine do you use a year? By a measure that I might know, for example, either
Well-
gallons or drums or something.
I can't put a number on that because we use gaseous chlorine. But I can tell you that the law is to keep it under 4 parts per million. I keep it down around 1 part per million. You use more chlorine in your swimming pool than I put in my drinking water. I mean, when I get deliveries, I have it at Sandy Bottom, I have it at Hingham Street, I have it at Myers Ave. And I get deliveries, we use the 50-gallon or 50-pound tanks, or the 150, tall, skinny tanks. I take a delivery of approximately 30 of those every 2 weeks between all 3 plants. So, the chlorine is, I'll tell you, people do tell me that I can taste the chlorine. I don't put more than 1 part in. You can put up to 4 legally. So I'm only putting 25% in. But as I tell them, I don't like to have the byproducts, but I'm glad to hear you taste the chlorine because then I know it's doing its job. It's getting out there and killing all the viruses that could be in the system.
Additional questions? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Now you guys can go home, you're done.
Oh, we're not done
Oh,
yet.
no, you don't, you're done.
Rick's raising his hand. Yep. You're next.
Come on down.
Why didn't you speak up? I would have let you go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I know you probably know when you guys see a warrant. We have a draft of the Board of Selectmen is meeting the last Monday of the month. And at that point, we expect they will accept the warrant, final warrant, especially the annual. I certainly, as long as everyone understands the draft, I have no problem distributing it either by the end or early next week. I don't know that that's something we would need to be considering just yet, again, because it is just in draft form. The other thing too is beside, due to various schedules, our financial group probably won't be able to provide, well, my goal is to try to provide by the beginning of May, the last week of April, a plausible budget scenario for next year that people can hopefully start to coalesce around. A lot of factors are coming into play now. For instance, tomorrow will be the regional Mayflower group will be setting its health insurance rates, and although it would seem to be solidified what that's going to look like, I know there's going to be some significant debate about that. Some of the issues relating to storm assistance from state and federal government are still out there. So as those become a little clearer in the next couple of weeks, hopefully it will have a big impact. Our number one goal is to maintain as much service as possible while restoring our stabilization fund at a minimum to what it was prior to last year, at a minimum. So again, as some of these fairly significant factors, the school budget obviously is a big factor, and as the weeks go on, some of their issues become clear, and a lot of them have shaped up a little more positively than they had feared they might. So that's a good thing. For instance, some of their retirements, some of the special ed costs as it becomes clearer. So again, I don't want to, I don't want to give you an exact date, but again, the goal is that by the end of April, we would have a plausible budget scenario that would work for people to start considering. So like I said, I don't know that I have no problem sending you a draft of the warrant. I just don't know that's something you should be considering just yet until the selectmen actually do their job. So,
Let's talk scheduling then. So I don't think there's any point in meeting next week. Maybe meet the week after next, go through the draft warrant. If that's, it'll be ready to take a look at
Yeah,
then.
it'll be before the selectmen approve it, but, you know, obviously 99% of it's probably going to be.
Well, it's not even, there's no point looking at it until we know that it's the real warrant. So maybe we wrap up this month and we meet the first Wednesday in May. And then we'll start tackling the warrant, and we'll have hopefully a potential budget scenario at that point. And that'll give us 3 weeks.
Right, and
to-
that budget scenario would obviously contemplate, you know, recommending funding certain articles too, which again, your recommendations are what they are, but, you know, a budget
Yeah.
that doesn't contemplate doing any capital is kind of, you know, that's not what anybody wants to see.
Yep.
That's not what we want to present, so.
So does that work then, for both the budget and the draft? And at that point, the warrant?
That would-
The
that
first
would
Wednesday in
certainly
May.
work I mean,
Okay.
that sounds plausible. I mean, certainly if you can always call a meeting if you want in the meantime, but it's only for a couple of days.
Yeah, I don't know what we'd be needing to review.
So,
Everybody's good with that? I don't know what the date is because my
actually 4
phone
weeks.
has melted in my pocket.
Today is the 8th.
May 6th is the
May
first.
6th.
May 6th. It's like a month. Hope everybody doesn't miss everybody.
It's a late
Want to go for
April.
the 29th?
Will we-
yeah, because the selectmen meet
Yeah.
Thursday, so you will have a final warrant by then.
Or the 29th?
You will have that, because the meeting on the 27th will solidify,
Okay.
at least we expect. to.
Yeah. So we'll meet the 29th then.
Jeff? Yes. How many, like, there'll be the regular warrant articles, but are there people, like, you know, at other times we've had to meet with people that put articles in? Are they anticipating a
Petitions.
lot of the petition articles? Do there seem to be a lot of those that we might need to meet with people on top of?
Well, I believe the 2 petition articles, see, that's an interesting one. One of them actually does have to do with the Community Preservation Act. The other one has to do with Common Core. It's a 2 petition, I believe it's only 2 petition articles. One of them obviously financial impact, so I believe those are the only 2 petition articles. And the warrant is closed, so there's no more opportunity for petition articles. So I don't actually offhand, I don't know who the proponents are of the community preservation article. I don't know who that is, but I'll just find that out.
Is there expectation that the warrant's going to be reopened for any more articles?
No expectation on my part
Okay.
at this point.
So maybe on the meeting on the 29th, once we get that, I can reach out to the petitioners and see if we can get them in over one of the next 2 weeks after that. I think that would give us enough time still. Great. Any concerns with that? No one. All right. Any more updates? All right, moving along, liaison reports. Review of minutes. We have minutes from last week, April 1st. Everybody was here. If anybody has a motion on these minutes.
Motion to accept the minutes.
Thank you.
Second.
Discussion on the motion and the second for the minutes of April 1st. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstain? Thank you. Next is correspondence. I don't see any correspondence. Looking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Thank you.